What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran, and I help people using a spiritual perspective. So I hope all you little pygmy hippos are doing all right. I hope you're not offended by being called a pygmy hippo. They're adorable. They're so cute. You just want to eat them. I would eat a pygmy hippo, but that's not today's topic. Today's topic is not pygmy hippos and how delicious they would taste if they were available at my nearest Outback Steakhouse. But we're going to talk about the unknown, or at least I'm going to talk about it, and you're going to listen and then sort of click off eventually and go watch a video where a cat is singing the national anthem, okay? But for those of you who do stick around and watch it, we're going to talk about the unknown. We're going to talk about why it's so scary and essentially what it really all means, right? So breaking it down fundamentally, the unknown is pretty much everything we don't know, right? So that's a pretty simplistic definition of it. But ultimately, I think the things that we call God, the universe, source, and so on, they're all unknown, right? So what I mean by that is that there is no evidence or truth, empirical truth, that can meet us in our waking life, okay? So no God is coming down from the sky to shake your hand every morning and give you a pastry, okay? Same thing with the universe and the source. We are, we are beings that rely on an external gratification to continue. Okay, so we want to feel that we are not here for no reason. So since the earliest times we possibly could have imagined a concept of a God, we have created one, right? It was the famous philosopher Voltaire who said that if man did not create a God, or something like along the lines of if there was no God, then man would have created one, okay? Something like that. So yes, I am a douchebag for mentioning a philosopher, but the point is that humans are hardwired to believe in something, okay? So I'm not here to dissuade anybody from believing in anything, but there is an element of the unknown, in the unknown that we all sort of understand, right? It's in everything. So this is our external method of belief systems. It's all unknown, right? We do not know what will happen when we die. Okay, this is where it all comes from, is this unknown element of death, right? So we have these ideas, right? Various religions and various denominations of those religions and philosophies, right? We all believe that there's some different type of maybe an afterlife, a heaven, right? Spirituality is often sort of associated with reincarnation, right? Things that I believe in, right? This is not like a bashing of an opinion. This is more like an objective understanding that even though I personally believe in the reincarnation of what we would call the soul, okay, just a word, I don't have any evidence for that, okay? Nobody has any evidence for that. You can only go on your personal subjective experience, right? And so there's various reasons why we believe in things, but those beliefs are not an intellectual thing. They're more of a leap of faith of the heart, okay? It's choosing to understand something. And those things change a lot, our beliefs as well, right? So there's so much that is unknown. So death is unknown. What really happens? We can't really say for sure. We just don't know, right? And a lot of the idea behind reincarnation is that when you're here, you don't automatically remember where you used to be. Okay, so it's a very convenient sort of idea, of course. So you can't remember, right? So that's a problem if you can't remember these things. So you can do past life regressions, you can do things like that, just as much as there are stories of people who have visited heaven, right? There are tons and tons of stories of first person experiences of the afterlife, of spirituality, of different sort of ideas of the unknown, but yet they're all different and they're all the same, right? Because it's all the same types of experiences, the same types of feelings that are elicited, the same sort of almost steps that are taken to get into that energy, that place, and yet it is fundamentally still different on each account. So it's all unknown. It's all still unknown, right? So there's no real safety. As long as humans have existed, we have liked the idea of there being something else after this. I think there's this fundamental guilt of being alive as well for humans, that it's not good enough that we're just here, that we that we exist. There has to be not only a reason, but there has to be a creator that has given that reason to us, right? So whether or not that's something externally based or internally based, the idea is there is a large amount of unknown properties going on. So I think you guys are starting to understand what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the belief systems. I don't think any of them are wrong or right. I have my own opinions and beliefs on spirituality and what it all means, right? But I still don't really know, okay? I can only feel what's true to me at any given moment, and that changes, right? Ideas change, people's opinions of things change. So it's funny how truth can be very leveled and very different, very varied, right? So when we have the unknown, we have something that then fundamentally causes a fear within us. So we have all these belief systems that give us some element of safety, regardless of how true we think they are. And yet that fear, that great boundless emptiness that is the unknown, is still there. And it's always been there. It's there for death. It's there for what's next in our lives, what's going to happen in 2 weeks, what's going to happen tomorrow. I think COVID largely put the planet into a place of the unknown. It's not that the unknown was never there, of course. It's just that people started to recognize how little control they had over the outcomes of their lives and how they're not exactly sure what would happen next, right? A lot of people, especially in a spiritual type of energy or journey or something like that, really understanding how the unknown plays a role in their life, okay? And that's, of course, the whole point of a spiritual awakening, is getting to that point where you're unknown. Getting to the point where you don't know what you used to, of course. You're constantly breaking down and moving forward. So with the unknown, this element of the unknown, we get very afraid because naturally we're not used to what could be. So we become very tense and anxious about what might happen. So eventually a lot of things fall apart in your life, okay? It's not necessarily true just for people going through spiritual awakening or journey, but certainly for everybody in all walks of life, things fall apart and the unknown becomes very, very very uncertain, and we create anxiety within ourselves. We start to become very pessimistic. We can become low energy, sort of just not really doing the things that we used to. We can kind of get into a rut because of how scared we get. And a lot of the time, the external systems that we have used to, in the past, make us feel better no longer work, right? So this could be tarot readings. It could be, praying, could be angels, could be spirit guides. It could be any of these concepts or ideas that different people resonate with and attach themselves to. And then they stop working, right? Suddenly the angels aren't picking up their mobile devices and the spirit guides don't like you anymore. And, God or source or the universe, it doesn't seem to be responding to you as well as it used to. And you're not sure and you're becoming more confused. And essentially the unknown has become greater and greater and greater and greater. It just seems bigger than it ever was. And what you know seems to not be helping anymore, right? So I drew this little illustration. I didn't really do it for this video, but it actually is a good illustration, I think. So I hope you guys can see this, because I certainly can't on the reflection, the glare. But you can see that the unknown is the vastness right here. Forgive the crease in the middle. And the known is the path that you've traveled. Okay, but you can see how small it is in comparison. And so there's a reason not to be afraid, of course, of the unknown. And that's because it's possibilities, right? It's endless possibilities. And yeah, some of those possibilities are scary, right? What might happen. But there's also an equal amount of beauty in those choices. There's an equal amount of information, right? So what you've known has been very limited, right? So that's been all your conditioned patterns of beliefs, right? Everything that you've been raised with, your opinions, your ideas, your belief systems, your behaviors, right? Your habits, okay? So this is all the things that have been known, and you've been traveling down that line your whole life, right? This very narrow line, that's what you've known. And that starts to fall apart, right? And then the unknown is so vast and so big that obviously it's scary, but you do get to a point where you're at the edge of that cliff, like in that drawing there, and all that you can really do is jump forward because what you've known has limited you. And what you don't know is always going to be bigger than what you do. So by this understanding of the unknown, it's actually a very safe place to jump into, right? It's a very safe place to go, because what you've known has also been the thing that's responsible for causing you pain and suffering. I mean, you take any problem that you have right now, and previous solutions are not working for it, okay? So I don't know about your life, but let's take me for an example, since I'm the one doing the video. So for me, I'm not exactly sure where I should be moving to, or whatever. The lease, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Not the specifics don't matter, but the house that I'm staying in is going to be gone July 1st. I mean, it's not going to be demolished. I just won't be living here. And I'm not exactly sure where to go after this. Lots of different varying things. It's very unknown. So some days I'm actually very scared and very, very, anxious, sort of depressed about it, right? And then other days I'm very peaceful, because it means that literally anything can happen, which means also anything good can happen. So there is an element of miraculousness to this, right? And this is where miracles do happen. This is where that unexpected events do happen. They happen in the unknown, right? Where we're constantly trying to know how things are going to work out. We become very bored and predictable, which is two things actually. And three, we don't, that control, we're trying to control everything, which means we're not really allowing things to happen, which means that we're ultimately going to constantly fail, because we're relying on things that we've known, right? So me in this position and how I feel in my life right now, there's a lot of unknowns, right? There's a lot of stuff that I'm not exactly sure about at this time. But the beauty of that is that I don't have to rely on what I've known anymore, because it hasn't actually helped me. It hasn't actually helped me. Certainly, it's not like everything you know is nonsense, but when you rely on ways of being, ways of thinking that maybe worked in the past but don't work anymore, at least in the recent past, then all that you're left with is a new way of doing things. And if it's new, it's going to be unknown, right? So again, everything that you've known is a very limited sort of pathway for you. And the unknown is vast. It's completely open, which means that relying on what you've known when you're going through this journey, when you're going through life and you're growing and you're trying to transform, relying on the known isn't going to help you, because that's sort of outdated. The butterfly doesn't rely on what the caterpillar knew. Okay, it doesn't do that. It's a whole different type of animal now. So there's these phases of our life where we have to sort of jump into the unknown, right? Where we're not exactly sure how things are going to work out. And this is where, this is the difference between fear and trust, right? So fear is constantly, obviously, like you're afraid, but it's this idea that there is not enough information to make you feel safe, okay? Because fear is obviously a lack of safety, right? You're not feeling safe, okay? So, and trust is, of course, a wholeness. It feels like you can rely on something, and you don't necessarily need an intellectual argument to do so. You might not know why you can trust a piece of machinery, or like a car or something like that. Or a stranger. You might not know why you can trust them, but you do sometimes, and they pays out really well, right? And other times you're very afraid of doing things, and you become stagnant, and you don't move outside of your comfort zone, and you stay stuck, right? And so there is this wisdom and this beauty in the unknown that forces us to move forward regardless of our own fears. And that's why I drew that cliff at the end, right? Because that is where we all are. We are all at a point, a lot of us anyway, not every human, of course, but a lot of us are at a point where we are at the edge of this cliff. This is you with your little legs. And you're at the edge of this cliff, and you need to jump and move forward. But you can't, because a lot of fear is keeping us, right? But everything that we've known that's behind us is ultimately, of course, the same reason why we're afraid. So the unknown doesn't have to be so scary, right? This is the point of this video. It doesn't have to be so destructive to our lives. I call it like the needle effect. So if you remember going to the doctor and you ever get like a needle or a shot of something, the fear of that pin point, that prick, the pain, right? The fear of it going in you is much greater than the actual process of it happening, right? So the emotions behind the future is much more scary than the actual event taking place. So you get that needle in your arm, and it's over in a second, and it didn't hurt that bad, and yeah, like I said, it's over. So it's gone. And you're like, oh, that was it. So like a lot of stuff, right? Not that bad. So like recently I did get a shot in my ass. Did you want to know about that? It's not my ass, not my rectum, not my anus, people. My tailbone. Okay, so I got a big needle thing in my tailbone because I had like tailbone pain for a few years, and I couldn't figure out a lot of it. But anyway, they gave me some steroids or something like that, and the pain's gone. Okay, great. But I was so terribly afraid of this experience. The fear was palpable. It was like I was very, very afraid. I don't do well with pain, physical pain, and so yeah, I was very nervous, very anxious, and it did hurt. It absolutely was not a pleasant experience. I don't want to say I'd like to do it again, but it was way, way easier than I thought it would be. It didn't last a second, but maybe 6 seconds. I only had to breathe deeply for 6 seconds, right? And that's pretty much one big deep breath. So it wasn't like a big deal, is my point. It was uncomfortable, it hurt, yeah, sure, but after it was over, I felt immediate relief. Okay, and that is exactly what the unknown is. It's you're trusting anything, something. Okay, people trust their God, they trust the universe, they trust Source. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Again, it's all unknown. God is unknown. All of it is unknown, right? So taking away the labels of all of this stuff, taking away every single word that we have to associate with the unknown, all that it really is in its most simplistic form is the unknown. So all you're trusting is the unknown. All you're trusting is what you do not know, what has always existed and what always will. So you're trusting the unknown. You're trusting yourself, okay? Because that's what it means to trust the unknown. You can't trust the unknown without trusting yourself. So it doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it a God. You can call it the universe. You can call it the Force, okay, from Star Wars. It doesn't matter what you call it. The unknown is what you're trusting. So you're trusting that you do not have all the information, but things will be okay anyway. Right? And you have no real logical basis for that, but you're trusting that there is something deeper and wiser that needs to be done that doesn't involve running around and scurrying like some sort of jackrabbit. Right? So you're taking the time for yourself to really allow something to happen rather than trying to force it. Okay? So you're not relying on the things that you did in the past because they don't work anymore. Right? So that is essentially, right, the unknown. Just giving yourself over to something that has been previously disappeared, right? So anyway, guys, I hope this video was helpful. Let me know if it was or wasn't, and we'll talk later, guys, all right? Okay, bye-bye.